Hello, friends, neighbors, family, new acquaintances. I have 34 subscribers, but I have like 100 people who watch these, and I don't know who all of you are, so welcome and hello. It's nice to meet you. Maybe one day we can chat in the comments. Welcome back to No Way Around. Today, I have a video which will probably be frustrating for everyone to watch and react to, and is not that frustrating for me to film, so I'm having fun. Yeah, today I'm going to be talking about music that is really hard to find and obscure. So I am sorry, and I will do my best to give you all of the information about it so that if you somehow are able to find it, you will be fully equipped to do so. Some of it is less obscure than others. I think there's only like a couple of things on here that are just like impossible to find, and I will give you a heads up on those as we go through. But in my life as someone who becomes mildly obsessed or perhaps hyper-focused on a piece of music at a time and listens to it over and over again and puts it on all of my playlists, every once in a while I will come across a song, a piece of music, a score from a movie, and I just cannot find the darn thing anywhere. Or I can only find it on one platform and all of my playlists are on another platform. For example, I didn't really start making YouTube playlists until very recently, and the only reason I really do listen to music on YouTube is to find stuff that I can't find anywhere else. Yeah, it's a little frustrating, not gonna lie. There's some, it happens pretty frequently to me. So today I will be discussing with you guys some of my favorite pieces of music that I personally think are really hard to find, but are really, really worth the effort to hunt down. So let's get started. By the way, there's no like cohesive genre here. I mean, a lot of it is folksy because that's just how I roll, but frankly, the only thing that really ties these pieces of music together is the fact that I have a hard time finding them. So yeah, hit me up if you have a better way to find some of this stuff. First thing, the soundtrack to BBC's adaptation of North and South, starring Richard Armitage and Daniela Denby-Ashe. Now, this is one of the greatest miniseries adaptations of a period drama. I really love it, and I kind of am planning to do a video about period dramas where I'm going to talk about this one, but it is, in a nutshell, a miniseries based on a book that was written in 1854, and it is all about kind of the class hierarchy and cultural divides existing within England at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. So it's really cool. Like, starting it off, there's so much cultural stuff you can learn from this novel, the original, which was released in 1854, and also the movie. And one thing, just as just a side note, but one thing that I love about this miniseries so much is they do a really good job of making it accessible to a modern audience, by which I mean they kind of do a good job of translating sort of the meaning of the Victorian writing and not just like jaunting off on a tangent of their own. They stay true to the original story, and I really particularly like this because one of my pet peeves is if there's a story with the potential for feminism, if it's written like by sort of a proto-feminist or a suffragette, there's a kind of a tendency to like rewrite the original author's like point of view in favor of more modern types of feminism or activism, which I actually really don't like. I think it's really reductive, and it doesn't really make sense in context that I am a feminist. I'm very passionate about social justice and activism, and it bothers me to see historical perspectives on those things like overwritten, because not only does it not make sense, but it gives a really wrong idea of like the time period, and it really erases like the narratives of a lot of women that otherwise, that have a chance now to be heard and are instead getting silenced in yet another and more irritating way. But one thing that I love about this miniseries, I'm going to end this tangent soon, but one thing that I love about this miniseries is that Margaret is very much kind of the protagonist of the original novel. She does a lot. She is the bolster, the person who supports everyone in her family, and she puts in a lot of tireless effort supporting her family and her friends and taking care of everyone around her. and she just really strives to do her best in every way and is frankly the only person in her family who ever gets anything done. And that's my own opinion about the novel. And I really enjoy that they carried through that narrative of her character and gave her the strength of character that she has and also the struggles that she has in that kind of unhealthy, like, dynamic where she's putting in way too much effort for everything and everyone. And I liked that they preserved the original narrative of the character, like showing that she's independent, showing that she's smart, all of these things, without, overwriting the author's original narrative, because that is the author's original narrative, and I just have a lot of feelings about it. So anyway, tangent over. But the soundtrack to this miniseries, getting back to the matter at hand, the soundtrack for this miniseries, I cannot find on like any streaming service. I don't know if you can even buy it as a CD. The only place I can find to listen to this soundtrack is on YouTube, and there's a couple of janky playlists where someone took pieces from the soundtrack. By the way, whoever did this was a national hero, and uploaded it on YouTube, not claiming it as their own work, obviously. And there's a couple of pieces from that soundtrack that just hit different. The entire soundtrack is gorgeous. It's beautifully crafted. It gives you a really good sense of like the time and space without being like, it's obviously modern instrumentation and writing, but it does give you a good sense of the time and place. Like, I played it for a friend who really likes music, and he was immediately like, wow, this sounds really British. And I was like, that's because it is. But specifically, there are two tracks that I think everyone should listen to from this soundtrack. The first track is Thornton's Walk, and it is one of the most gorgeous pieces of, like, it's piano, there's a lot of piano, but I think there's also just a little bit of some type of string instrument in there, and I'm not really sure what it is. There's definitely a little bit of poignant violin, and it's a track that plays as both main characters are kind of at their lowest, and it is gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's haunting, it's bittersweet, and I can only find it on YouTube. So that's my first track. The other track that I think everyone should listen to is just the main title theme. It's gorgeous and beautiful and also haunting. A lot of the movie is kind of bittersweet. It does have a happy ending though, so I highly recommend that everyone watch it. Moving on from that, my next picks for music that is really hard to find. This is possibly the most obscure if you live in the US. If you live in Canada, this is actually probably going to be pretty easy for you to find, but I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that. But growing up, my dad always had us listen to a bunch of like 80s, 70s, 90s Canadian folk music because my dad's from Canada, and I loved it. It's like my favorite. To this day, I still listen to a bunch of Canadian folk artists. But one of the artists that was my all-time favorite for a time is Tanglefoot. And Tanglefoot is like, as far as I can tell, has a pretty big following in Canada, but in the US, like, no one knows who they are. They do a lot of French stuff, a lot of voyageur ballads. They do the obligatory, like, World War I ballads that every Canadian folk artist has to do. They have some really cool stuff. They've got some great sea shanties under their repertoire. But one of my all-time favorite things by Tanglefoot is their album Music in the Wood. And Music in the Wood is an amazing folk album. I will say that about 50% of the songs on there I love. The other 50% I'm just like, I don't know, whatever. Like, I can take or leave. But the 50% that I love, they're amazing. And there are two songs in specific on this album that I think are incredible and amazing and everyone should listen to. But I cannot find them anywhere for the life of me. You can't even find them on YouTube. And I know that this album exists because my dad has a CD copy, and I grew up listening to the CD. And my dad also owns the MP3s because he got the CD. But, like, that's it. I cannot find it anywhere. The CD itself, once I looked it up, and I found it, like, used somewhere for, like, $100, but I only found, like, one. Like, it's really, really, really hard to find in the US. So if anyone can find this, tell me, let me know. If there's some kind of archive that I don't know about where this is stored, please, because they're amazing. And the two specific songs on this album that are probably my favorites are Loup Garou, which is it's a kind of a French-Canadian inspired ballad about a werewolf. It is about a kind of normal, like, farming community, and there's this lady who lives there, and she marries this guy, and it turns out that the guy is a werewolf, And the entire song is hilarious because it's all about how this werewolf is like super mild mannered and he likes to just do his farming chores and hang out with his wife. And he's like, you know, the chorus kind of implies that he's like a little bit upset in case she finds out about it and is afraid of him. And at the end of the song, it's just the resolution that she's actually crazier than he is and is in love with him as well. And so it's really wholesome, really cute, frankly, how Twilight should have been. And it's an amazing song. It has a great rhythm, a great beat, and they also worked in little wolf howl sounds into the instrumentation and the singing, which I think is dope. But it's impossible to find. Like, I can't find it anywhere. I literally have to steal the CD when I want to listen to it. So if you can find that anywhere, I'm also going to write these song titles and artists in the description, by the way. I'm just getting a little worked up. The second song on that album is Music in the Wood, so it's the title song of the album. And I actually once sang this for a folk music class. And the reason I realized this album was so rare is because while doing research for that folk music class, I was trying to find like sheet music for it. Could not find it anywhere, could not find the CD anywhere. I was trying to like play it for my group project mates to like show them what we were supposed to be singing. And I found like one super janky video on YouTube of like a live performance at a pub somewhere. Sound quality's terrible, it's not the best version of the song, but I will link that. I think I'm putting together a YouTube playlist for this. I will put that in the YouTube playlist in case you guys are interested, but I will warn you right off the bat, it is not as good. It's really kind of the worst version of the song, but it's the only version that's available. But the Music in the Wood is a song about a carriage builder who wants to build violins, and the song is all about the generational legacy he creates with his violins. And even though no one remembers him as a carriage builder, the place where he put his love and his passion was his violins, and those are the things that outlasted him. So it's a really cool one. It sounds beautiful. It's really lyrical, story-driven, which are all things that I love about folk music. And Tanglefoot knows how to do some really, really dope fiddle. And there's amazing fiddle on that track. And it's just tragic to me that not everyone can listen to the amazing fiddle that exists in that album. So I will do my best to give you as much information as possible so you can go out and find these. And I will also try to see if I can find that one janky YouTube video. I'll make a playlist because it is worth it, but like, yeah, you may have an impossible time finding the rest of the album, so good luck, I guess. Okay, moving on from that album, the next thing I wanted to talk about is some soundtracks. So I already talked about the North and South soundtrack. Another soundtrack, which should come as no surprise to anyone who like talks to me about soundtracks. You guys, one of the most satisfying cartoon watching experiences I've had in my life is when I watched season 3 of the Lego Ninjago cartoon. Now, Lego Ninjago is worth a whole video on its own. This is it was made as like a little promotional kids show to promote Lego sets, and somehow it gained so much popularity that they kept making season after season. At this point, there's like 11 seasons of it. They made multiple movies. Well, actually, maybe just one movie and then like a couple of like special episodes that were longer than the normal episodes. You know what I'm saying? And there's like an entire lore. But one of the weird things about this little Lego cartoon is that it has a phenomenal soundtrack. Banger after banger. I don't know who was in charge. I mean, I know who was in charge, but like, I don't know what on earth they did to make this soundtrack go as hard as it did, but it goes hard. And my favorite season of Lego Ninjago is specifically the 3rd season. In the 3rd season of Lego Ninjago, we get a really cool cyberpunk reboot of the universe, which is explained well in universe. Like, it's not like just a crazy thing. Like, the universe canonically goes through like an industrial revolution following a natural disaster, which I think is awesome. And you get these amazing electronic remixes. So like, I should rewind a little bit. The scores from the first 2 seasons are kind of your classic like martial arts movie scores mixed with that kind of like it's a kid's fantasy show type of scores. So they're really playful, they're haunting, they're beautiful. All of the characters have really cool themes. My particular favorite theme is like Zane's theme, which is called Falcon Chase. So I will also put that in some kind of, I think that might already be in a playlist that I have on my channel Spotify, but it's amazing and it has some really haunting, beautiful violin. And then in season 3, when they did the Cyberpunk reboot, they also did like electronic remixes of their themes and created new themes. So it's just amazing and I go crazy for it. And yet, lo and behold, you can find the soundtracks, like the album of the soundtracks for the first two seasons on like Amazon Prime and Apple Music and Spotify. Like, they're all there. But season 3, they did not release a soundtrack album. As far as I can tell, they didn't do a soundtrack album for season 3, which is horrible because it was so, so good. So you can find the soundtrack for season 3, again, pretty jankily on YouTube, and I will put a couple of the scores from it into this playlist. But one of my favorite scores from that season is What Powered Zane. And like I said, Zane's theme is like my favorite in that show. This one is kind of at a really sad point in Zane's story, and it's just gorgeous. It remixes part of his original theme. It inserts a new theme. For those of you who are not familiar with the lore, Zane becomes the Titanium Ninja. They have different titles. And there's this truly devastating scene, and it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. The music is phenomenal, and yeah, it's incredible. So I will link it down below. And I'll put it in the play. I'm gonna link the whole playlist down below, but I'll put it in the playlist and you guys can see what I'm talking about because it just goes hard. Okay, moving on. Another period drama that had a phenomenal soundtrack that is ridiculously hard to find is the 1995 Pride and Prejudice miniseries starring Jennifer Ely and Colin Firth. Now, I know, as I say this, there's going to be a lot of people who are really big fans of the soundtrack of the 2005 Pride and Prejudice starring Keira Knightley, who will be, what? The soundtrack to the 1995 version, but the 1995 version was bland and colorless and boring, and there was no hand flex. Bear with me. The 1995 Pride and Prejudice is objectively, can I say this? It's objectively better than the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. I understand that the 2005 Pride and Prejudice had a truly spectacular score. Beautiful cinematography, and yes, the hand flex scene was in many ways revolutionary. However, in terms of period accuracy, adherence to the character types of the novel, adherence to the plot of the novel, chemistry between the leads, acting skills, costuming, the 1995 Pride and Prejudice was far and away better. Some of the acting in it is some of the best acting that I know of, and it's incredible, and you should look it up. But one thing that is completely slept on about it, because people talk about all the other stuff I just talked about, and it is worth talking about, but one thing that is very slept on is the soundtrack. Now, I completely forget who wrote this soundtrack. I have known it in the past, and I will know it in the future, but at the moment I do not know. But it is a really, really well done soundtrack, and the reason it's really, really well done is because it makes use of really great themes, and like very period appropriate instrumentation. Like all of the ball scenes, they use period pieces of music that, you know, if you actually went to a real ball in the 1810s somehow, if you time traveled, you would hear that music. But they also did some really good, like, modern original scores that, as far as I know, are not based on folk music, but that blend really well with the actual period appropriate music. And they also do a really good job of conveying, like, the tone of the narrator, because if you've read the original Pride and Prejudice novel, you know that one of the great things about Jane Austen novels is the snarky narration style. Jane Austen does not hold back in Pride and Prejudice, and I feel like in a movie setting, one of the challenges of writing a good soundtrack is that if the movie is based on a book, there's so much in the book that may be difficult to convey through like the acting or the cinematography. And that's one of the challenges of converting a book to a movie, and one of the reasons why a lot of people who have read a book first don't like the movie, because there is a lot that kind of gets left out, and it's really hard to work around that. But a really, really good adaptation soundtrack should convey the voice of the narrator to the audience. And I think in a lot of ways, the 1995 Pride and Prejudice score actually really does that. However, it's actually so hard to find. It's so hard to find. You can find the main theme, like just kind of the opening title theme, in a lot of like anthologies or collection albums. Like, you know those collaboration albums they do where they're like, there's like some sort of weird name, and then it's like music from like these period dramas or whatever. I found it in those on like Apple Music and iTunes, and those are the same thing. Like Amazon Music, Spotify. I found it in those. But just like other themes, like there's a Pemberley theme. Lady Catherine de Bourgh's theme is hilarious and amazing. It's so overdramatic and grandiose and intimidating, just like Lady Catherine has to be. And those are really hard to find. And you can't find it on Spotify by searching Pride and Prejudice, because all that comes up is the 2005 score. However, if you go to the composer's personal Spotify page, you can find like 4 of the themes. So I will bring those up. I'll put them on my channel Spotify, and also see if I can find them to put them on my YouTube playlist too. But they're highly worth listening to. I'll try to find the good ones. Like I said, the Lady Catherine de Bourgh theme is phenomenal, and there's so much intricacy and depth in the music, but it doesn't overwhelm the scene when you're actually watching the movie. So they did an amazing job. So yeah, that one's good. I will find it for you guys and put it below. But I always think that's weird. Like, you can't find it by searching Pride and Prejudice. You have to go to the composer's Spotify, and then you'll find it. It's odd, but the composer deserves more clout, which is kind of ironic because I forgot the poor man's name. But I will find it again. I will put it in the video description. Okay, moving on. The next song is, in some ways, the most obscure, and probably not quite the most obscure. So this song is The Night is Young by Colum Sands. Now this is like a really beautiful, gorgeous, haunting piece of folk music. As far as I can tell, the lyrics and original melody are written by Colum Sands, and Colum Sands just does this thing where he like sings it with a guitar, and it's like your standard folk music. But a dude named Paul Carey arranged it for choir, and you can find on YouTube some janky, definitely homemade videos of different people's school choirs singing this. I think that's like the only choirs I've seen do this, is like school choirs. But this dude named Paul Carey rearranged a Colum Sands song to be like a choir piece, and it is haunting, beautiful, gorgeous, comforting. It's amazing. So the reason I say this is one of the most obscure ones is that my particular favorite cover of this is when my own sister sang it in her choir concert when she was in high school. And so it is basically impossible for anyone else to find, because my family has like one recording of that concert that our friend's mother made for us, and I don't even know where it is right now. Like, I have a copy of it somewhere, but I was trying to look through my like files, because I haven't listened to it for like a year. I was trying to look through my files to find it to make this video. Couldn't find it. So one day in the future, if I have my sister's consent, I may actually upload that file to YouTube so you guys can hear it, because her voice is beautiful and it's my favorite version. But yeah, like that's kind of a version that will be impossible for you guys to find. However, there are some like better, more or less good other homemade bootleg, however you want to call it, versions of other school choirs singing it, and I will link one of those in the YouTube description. I'll link it in the description, but you know, I'll put it in the playlist. So yeah, I mean, part of the reason that my favorite cover is my sister's is because obviously I love my sister, and I actually, this is like a really personal story, so I won't put a timestamp. I don't know how to do that. You can skip ahead a couple seconds if you don't want to listen to a really personal story, but I had gone through something pretty traumatic while I was at school, and I came home to watch my sister's choir concert in the spring, and my family didn't know that she would have a solo singing this song. I knew, she told me, but she didn't tell anyone else. So I was like, okay, I gotta be there to support her. So my whole family went. They were all surprised and amazed. And what was really interesting was the theme of the concert was the theme of light and dark in music. So they sang a lot of requiems. And I had just recently dealt with the death of someone that I had felt at least partially responsible for in my professional capacity. And, you know, I was really shell-shocked and traumatized, and it was a really difficult time. But I got to go and listen to my sister singing about lightness and dark, and it was kind of one of those odd moments where, you know, it was exactly what I needed at the time, because they sang a bunch of requiems and it really helped me with the grieving process. So I will say that I am slightly biased in favor of this song, and in particular the specific version of my sister singing it, because it really helped me in a dark period of my life. But I still think it slaps, and so do a bunch of school choirs. So I will put it in I'll put it in the YouTube playlist, and you guys can watch it. And who knows, maybe if I find that file and my sister's okay with it, I might upload her singing it too. Just know that it was also a homemade recording, so the sound quality isn't going to be like amazing. But yeah, anyway, moving on. The final one I put on my list is a cover of Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, which is originally, or Can't Take My Eyes Off You, I think. Originally a Frankie Valli song, but there's a cover of it done by Walk Off the Earth. You may have heard of them. They do a lot of original music now, but they got started kind of doing a lot of covers, and their cover of it is like the best one. They specifically collaborated with another singer, Sela Sue, who also has a YouTube channel. You should check it out. But Walk Off the Earth and Sela Sue's cover of Can't Take My Eyes Off You is like incredible. It's amazing. It's revolutionary. It makes the entire song better, in my opinion. Sela Sue has this amazing kind of like gritty voice that's still really beautiful. She has an incredible range and sound, and so do some of the Walk Off the Earth people who sing in that video. And they also have really fun, just like light instrumentation with her really deep, like compelling voice. Amazing, great contrast. I can only find it on YouTube. Like, Walk Off the Earth has stuff on iTunes. They have stuff on a bunch of different music streaming platforms. I don't know if it's because it was a collaboration, but it's not like on their like official band Spotify or whatever. But you can find it on YouTube. This particular collaboration was released like 7 years ago, and it is one of my favorites. I have listened to it repetitively in spurts since then, and yeah, it's really, really, really good. So I will put that in the playlist as well, and you can figure it out. Well, that brings us to the end of the list that I put together ahead of time. Actually, we did one extra one that wasn't even in the list I put together ahead of time. I threw the Pride and Prejudice one in there because I remembered it, and I was like, oh dang, I should talk about that too. But I actually didn't plan to talk about that one, so, you know. But I really appreciate you guys sticking around till the end of the video if you're still here. Feel free to sound off in the comments. What's your favorite like music that's really obscure? Oh, I just remembered another one. Okay, wait, hold up. There's another one that we should listen to. We should talk about. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the hugely cult famous children's media known as Bella Sara. It was like a series of books. It was a game. Like, they had multiple games. It was a website. There was like all kinds of merch and like horse action figures that went with it. But it was like, honestly, one of my favorite childhood memories was Bella Sara. It was like, essentially, for those of you who don't know, it was Norwegian, Scandinavian. It was Scandinavian. It was a Scandinavian thing. And it was this like magical land inspired by like Scandinavian and Norse mythology, and also like oddly enough Native American mythology, which I really appreciate, by the way. They had like an entire line of trading cards based off of different Native American tribes and art styles, which like that was representation I rarely saw as a child. But Bella Sara was like about this magical land where horses were like sentient, and it was basically like, you know, adjacent to like our universe. So it was like an alternate universe where horses were kind of like the thing, but there were also like loads of other magical creatures. It was just very horse heavy, and I loved horses when I was younger, so it was dope. But yeah, it had like an entire lore. There was all this stuff. But I say all this to say, I'm wrapping it up, I'm bringing it back. I say all this to say that they had some amazing original music pieces written for the online Flash Player game. And the Flash Player game for Belisara was incredible. I spent many hours on it as a child. I recently tried to log back in and found that it had been taken down in like 2019 or something. But it went like for a long time. And they had original music pieces they wrote for it that were just beautiful, incredible, and you can still find those music pieces if you go to the website. So I will link the website in the description. Not all of them, obviously, but there's some soundtracks for the game, and they're just really pretty, and I enjoy them. I think they're cool. I mean, you may think they're slightly less cool because they're not as nostalgic for you, but I think they're cool. So also comment in the description if you remember Belisara, because it was one of the best things from my childhood, and probably is like one of the more influential things that drove my sense of aesthetic growing up. Belisara was this amazing and weird mixture of like cottage core, Lord of the Rings, like, but also like very posh, like Disney princess style. It was like the wildest aesthetic, but I loved it. So yeah, comment below. But anyway, I'm just gonna get back to what I was saying before. I don't even remember. I was wrapping up the video, I think. Yeah, let me know if there's a music piece that you remember. Let me know if you remember Belisara. And feel free to discuss what I've talked about today. If there's a video that you would like me to do, as always, leave a comment. I mean, it doesn't hurt. I might actually do it if I can get my act together long enough to do it. And yeah, I hope to release similar stuff for you soon. I think my most watched video is my doll unboxing, and I frankly can't blame y'all because that was a great video. But I'm thinking about doing some more of that type of stuff. I am still plugging away at it. I enjoy my dolls a lot, so maybe I'll do that. If you guys are interested in like me taking you on a little tour through my doll collection, let me know. Yeah, that's pretty much it for now. I really appreciate you guys all being here. Go out and get some sunshine if it's available where you live, and if not, it's like the old joke, like, if you can't get real sunshine, store-bought is fine. Like, you can sit under a happy lamp for a while. But anyway, you guys have a good one. It was, as always, lovely to talk to you, and I hope that the rest of your day is filled with a sense of peace and satisfaction in yourself as a person. You guys, I was watching this video just to like edit, and I realized I completely forgot a whole song that was on my list, which is funny. Like, I have my laptop was right in front of me, and I was looking at the list as I was talking, and I still forgot this one song. So I'm going to tell you about it right now because I think it's amazing. So the other song that I totally forgot about is Forever and For Always by Shania Twain. Now, this song is not hard to find. There's like 5 versions of it everywhere. But there's a specific version of this song that I can only find on YouTube as like, again, a janky recording of a live performance, but it's so good. And that is specifically the version of the song where she collaborated with Alison Krauss and Union Station. And for those of you who are not into like bluegrass music, Alison Krauss and Union Station, that's like a big deal. And so is Shania Twain. And it's kind of a crossover because, like, again, like Alison Krauss and Union Station kind of do like Appalachian folk music, bluegrass. Like, they veer into country a little bit, but they do a lot of folk. And Shania Twain is like mostly country and pop, but like also does a little bit of folk. But this song is really cute. The lyrics are really precious. It's basically, like Shania Twain has said in the past, that it's a song that was inspired by like eternal love, but like specifically like the relationships that she had seen where people had like gotten together at a really young age and like stayed together through their whole lives. So it's a really precious, cute song, and they have some really cool like instrumentation and harmony in that specific version. But again, you can only find it on YouTube. So I will also put that in the YouTube playlist. It's a really good one. I just can't believe that I like completely forgot about a whole song, even though I was like looking at my list as I was talking. But fast the way the cookie crumbled. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye!